Welcome to In the Zone, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of slopestyle mountain biking. In each episode, we bring you insightful conversations with professional riders, thought-provoking discussions, and unique perspectives on improving ourselves on and off the bike. Whether you are a seasoned mountain bike enthusiast looking to take your skills to the next level, or just started to explore this fascinating world, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Blaise Bali, and I'm thrilled to be taking you on this journey. So sit back, relax, and let's enjoy the show. So guys, today's special guest is Jakub Vencel. Jakub is from Czech Republic. He's 33 years old, and he's been riding bikes for over 24 years. And he's a professional slopestyle rider for the past 15 years. So he's been competing in Frankfurt for the last 5 years. Actually, his best place was 5th. And he also qualified for Joyride 4 times total. And he also mentioned me that he won the Frankfurt Split and Style in 2017. So Jakub, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, I would love to know, what do you enjoy doing when you are not riding the bike? Like, do you have any other hobbies or anything besides riding bikes?
For sure. I have some hobbies. Like I would say my most or biggest hobbies is music. You know, I love to listen to a lot of music, a lot of guitar music, metal music, especially. You know.
Love it.
So yeah, that's one thing that I follow for a long time and kind of, yeah, I'm interested in. Like I play some instruments myself a little bit. I'm not that great, really.
You play on the guitar, or what do you play?
I used to play drums for a long time when I was a kid. I just went to like the lessons, you know, did that for like 7 years or something. So I know some basics, you know, but and then later on, like I got a bass guitar, so I have the bass guitar. I have an electric guitar as well. But as I say, I'm not very good, but I really enjoy that. So yeah, that's one thing. Even before biking, I was into skateboarding. So I don't ride that much lately, especially after like I broke my heel a couple years ago, and that kind of like since then it kind of sucks for skateboarding. But I ride a bit, and yeah, but I follow skateboarding a lot. I would say more than biking.
Really?
And
you do? So you watch it more, like skateboarding?
I would say so. It goes in kind of waves. There was a time when I was really not watching any bike videos. I was kind of over it and watching only like skate videos and stuff. But I'd say it's 50-50. But I really enjoy that, especially like street skating. And yeah, I follow like I would say all the action sports. Mm-hmm. When it's X Games, you know, I watch everything. So snowboards, skis, everything, you know, I really like that.
I can relate. I always like to watch those as well.
And man, one thing that is kind of newer that I follow a lot is darts.
Like, really, you like darts?
Yeah, I love darts, man. I'm watching like every tournament now, like all the Premier Leagues, everything. Watch it all the time. Like, really enjoy that. I think the format is really good. They have kind of, it's super simple. I think like a lot of people don't understand how you can watch that, but if you get into it a little bit, like I think they have that whole concept in the show is pretty.
I think yes, with every sport I've learned that like some sports may look boring from the outside or for the outsider, but once you understand like all the tiny things behind and the strategies and everything and the mental game, it's like it can get crazy. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that you love watching sports, you like playing music when you're not riding your bike, you like skateboard. Let's talk about biking, because at the end of the day, that's why we're here. So how did you get into mountain biking? Maybe you can tell the story of if you remember how you got your first bike.
Yeah.
What was your first trick? What was your first place? Like, what was your first experience overall?
And I totally remember, because, and it's like, I would say quite a bit different from most of the guys that do like slopestyle and stuff. I actually started riding bike trials when I was 9. We actually went to Czech with my dad. We went to Czech a world championship race in bike
Mm-hmm.
trials, and we kind of really liked that. And we had he had a friend that kind of knew some people around, and I got a bike from them. It was like a kind of a homemade bike, but I was 9, so it was like super small bike. And yeah, started riding. There was no like club in Prague in that time where I'm from. So we kind of like had that one friend that showed me the basics, and then like that was the fall of 98, I believe. And then
I
like
see.
the next year we went to the first competitions, and I started competing in bike trials. So that was like a little bit different beginning than most of the guys that do like dirt jumping and slopestyle riding and stuff
I
like that.
see.
So
Well, I think it's safe to say you are really good with tail tap tricks then, no?
yeah, I believe so. Not
Yeah.
not much the combos, but I can hop on the back wheel for
Yeah, fair
for a
enough.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much your first experience on the bike.
Oh yeah. So I was competing in bike trials for a while until like 2007. I had some success with trials. I was I won the Czech championship a couple times, like in
Oh,
my categories. And I think the biggest result in bike trials was when I won a European championship in junior
I
category.
see. Well, you call
So
that some success. I think you're being very humble. That's like actually a big success, and like,
yeah,
after
so it's
riding it.
it's not like it wasn't like a huge sport, but it was, yeah. So I was kind of successful, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think the trials gave me a little bit different skills than,
Good basics, yeah.
yeah. So I think like yeah. I mean, I think it was a really good start for me, and I'm actually thankful for that so much. Like, and in the transition, like I started like already when I was riding bike trails, I got some kind of a dirt jump bike, or I don't know if you could call it a dirt jump bike in that time, but it was a mountain bike, and I started like trying different disciplines during that. I think I had this bike when I was like 12 or 13, so I
Mm-hmm.
started going to like some jumps. Later on I did some four cross races. I did like one downhill race maybe, and I tried like different type of things um while I was still
But
competing in bike
when
trials.
was this? Like, how old were you back then when you tried all these things?
Was around maybe like 15,
Okay, so 15, you were experimenting. You already was, well, like you were a bit bored of only riding in
not really
trial,
not
and
really I just kind of, and it stays till now, like I just like to ride all kinds of bikes, and not to do just one thing. And I've seen, in that time the scene was like really strong. We had a magazine that I was like following. I was reading through everything. I was interested in reading about flatland to downhill,
okay,
everything, all the bikes. I
and you
thought
wanted to try
everything
them,
was
how it
cool.
feels to
Yeah, for
do
sure.
those.
Like I maybe didn't ride like a BMX, I didn't ride flatland, but I was also interested in that, and seeing what the guys are doing in the scene. So it was kind of natural, I think, to um try to ride different disciplines, and experience what it is about. And it was
I see.
also and it was also that time when like I think like the freestyle mountain biking was just coming up and coming together.
Mm-hmm.
um and it's interesting to see, I think, like nowadays the freestyle mountain biking is slope style, which is like kind of established discipline, that has its face, and it kind of looks, most time it looks similar, the courses and the tricks, the style of the whole thing. But in that time, maybe early 2000s, the sport was just being created, and it had all these influences from the trials, from BMX, and from free riding, and kind of everything coming together. And a lot of the influential guys in the beginning came from bike trials. So that was also kind of my, my role models in that time, or my heroes. So
who were, can you mention a few?
So I don't know if how many you're gonna know from the Czech guys. From the Czech guys, it was Petr Kraus, Jarda Spěšný. Then later, the next generation was Damian Sirišky, who was the first guy who actually made it to the bigger contests. But from the world, it was I liked Martin Ashton, for example, and this crew around these guys, and then later like Aaron Chase, and the guys who brought like the street riding, like Adam Haug and these guys. So
I see.
So I think like these were like the formative years for the freestyle mountain biking, I think, that we know these days. And
can you remember,
that was really interesting to me, all of that.
I see. Can you remember for a time when you decided that you are all in on slopestyle mountain biking, or did you had a time when you were like, okay, this is what I'm doing now, like I just want to become really good at this?
So it wasn't really like this. It was kind of a gradual, it was coming together. I as I said, I was riding some dirt jumps when I was maybe 13, when I was still fully into bike trials. And it was slowly getting bigger and bigger, and I was spending like a little more times while I was still competing and trying to be, the best in bike trials. But I think so the year when I fully like stopped riding bike trials and went into slopestyle was 2008. And I think maybe 2 years before that, I kind of knew that this point is coming.
I
was not quite there yet, but I knew like sooner or later that's the route that I want to go. But I was kind of, I don't know if I would say invested, but maybe that is the word, in the bike trials, and I wanted to achieve something still. But it was like, yeah, maybe when I was 16, 2006 to 2008 was like that transition where I kind of knew that it's coming. And then like I decided, actually 2007 was the last time I went to the world championships in bike trials. And
I see.
And that was the last season when I did like the full competitions of bike trials. And then the next year I actually decided to go for the freestyle, slopestyle, dirt jump stuff.
I would like to take the conversation to the actual training you did in slopestyle. So I would love to hear if you have any kind of training agenda, training regime, or if you do not have, like, how do you decide when to train, or how long you train, or how do you do these things?
Yeah, so I never had like I would say I never had really like a strict regime or anything like that. It is still a freestyle sport, and I think especially for dirt jumping, there's so many elements that you have to take in consideration, that like especially the weather, and the seasons. It's really tough to ride all year long and ride in the times when you want to ride. Like I never had like a training facility, where I could ride indoors all year long, that especially not here in Czech Republic, especially not back in the days. These days it's much easier to go to some of the indoor places.
Yes, there are many more for sure.
And it's still not easy for everybody to go to these places, and some people are lucky to have them like really close. But it's there's definitely more options for that. But I always thought like, I think like there's always like a short-term goals in these kind of sports. There's always like the next trick that you want to learn, and I think like I always like kind of said that you have to use what you have. Maybe not always you wish that you would have like a big foam pit with the airbag next to it, with the mulch next to it, all the same, but that's the reality. Is it's not possible, or at least it never was possible for me. so we always used what we had, you know, kind of be creative with that, and that was always kind of the mindset. You
I
know,
see.
also maybe, you know, that you cannot learn all the tricks, but there's always something that you can learn. So
I agree.
I don't know, maybe drifting a little bit from the question, but
no, I think the
so
main question was like, how do you, like, if you had any training agenda or training schedule, and you answered that properly. You said no, it's like a freestyle sport, and there are like so many elements. It's very hard to plan. It's not like you can be just
I
like.
think, yeah. So I think like in the years, like if I would look at the whole year, I think for me always like there's definitely the time that you spend on the bike is the most important thing, you know, and that
I agree.
shows on your riding, on your confidence, definitely. So for me, every year, like when I was really serious about competitions, I spent most of my winters in Spain. You know that place very well now, I guess.
Yeah, at La Poma
So
Bike Park. Yeah.
Trying to spend at least like a month or 2 months or even more in Spain riding jumps over the winter, and that was always kind of like the building block, the foundation for the whole season, where I did the most riding in that time, and kind of was always getting ready for that, because our winters like are not that harsh. Like there are definitely worse places, but it's tricky for us. We cannot really ride dirt jumps at home, so that was always like the thing that I did. And coming into that, like for me at least, it was always very difficult to do like the physical training as gym preparation during the season. So I was always trying to do as much as I could over the winter.
Okay, so off season is more like gym, and then before competition it's like
trying to do that as much as I could always. But you know, sometimes it's
but what does that mean? It's like 3 times a week, 2 times a week, 5 times a week, like
I would say 3-4 times a week.
3-4 times
a week. I'm not doing as much right now, but there were definitely like years when I was doing more of that.
And what type of training? Did you train explosiveness, a lot of core, or just general, like just hitting the machines, whatever you saw, biceps, curls, triceps, whatever, it's just coming your way?
I'm not a big muscular. I'm not a big muscular guy or anything, you know, not at all. but I actually always kind of like and enjoy the classic gym trainings, you know, so dumbbells, machines, stuff like that.
And just watch some YouTube videos and then just go with like a classic training.
I usually had a trainer. I had a guy that I was like going to the gym with, not all the time. We usually did like part, like, and then made a plan for the rest that I was doing myself. Now actually the last 3 years maybe, I'm working with the guy that is helping me with this stuff. He's also like a physiotherapist, so helps me with all my injuries and also like with the gym training. It's not a strict regime. It's more like making small progress all the time, you know, and
like with most things in life, I would say. Yeah,
I'd say unfortunately I wish there would be a bigger progress over the years in terms of my like physical strength, but there was always so many injuries that I feel like it always kind of was focused on like just nursing these injuries and getting back ready to ride, you know, and feeling good. So
understandably, yeah.
So that was always like the big part was this, more like just
so it was more like physio and re-strengthen whatever broken. Yeah, okay.
There's always something, you know, if you do like slopestyle dirt jumping long enough.
Tell me about it. I know what you mean. I think I have some. Yeah.
You know, there's gonna be a few things here and there, you know,
sprain here and there. So, if nothing crazy, at least a couple of sprain here and there always stays with you, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So there's always something to work on, you know.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, so that this was always like kind of the thing that I tried to do, but then like during the season, realistically, like during the season, I never gave it too much after all. And I have like this I always say, like, it's kind of during the season, I always could see like that where my physical strength, you know, or what I build in the gym, it's kind of like in the peak, like in the beginning of season, then slowly going down, and that kind of goes the other way, where the riding in the beginning is not that great, you know, and it's kind of getting better through the season. So
let's talk about that, because I think that's interesting to a lot of people. How do you, because you said you go to the gym, so obviously you already told me you feel the benefit of being in the gym, but how do you, like, what is the actual benefit? Like, what do you feel on the bike when you say, okay, I feel the physical fitness? Is it you're not out of breath, or when you crash you don't hit so hard? Like, what is it really? What do you feel?
So like the endurance, the basic endurance is definitely important, I think. Like, just
you mean cardiovascular endurance, or muscle endurance as well, like less muscle fatigue?
No, like just probably both, but just the fact, like, not being out of breath and be able to do the repetitions that you need to do. I think there's a okay, our sport is not like endurance oriented, but
we do a lap, another lap, so
yeah, but if you want to ride like 3-4 hours, you definitely need to have some basic endurance. So yeah, definitely that benefit you can definitely see being
and
able to ride.
if you have I experienced, sorry to cut you off, but like when you have good cardio and good physical strength or physical endurance, you can actually do more riding in 1.5 hours or 2 hours. Like, you can do more laps if you walk faster back, and you can do that
probably. Yeah, and I think also like you probably can like keep the focus, or like probably the focus for a little bit longer, you know, or have like the heavy session
I know
for
what
a
you
little
mean.
bit longer, you know.
Yeah, that's good. I never thought about that. Yeah, you can like have that, but part of that is mental
you can
as well,
also
right?
you can ride 4 hours and just cruising, you know, or it's a bit different, you know, if you have these days when you just ride, and you can ride all day. Like, you can ride all day the mini trails in Poma, but it I don't know, it's not any crazy level, you know. But when you actually go and want to do tricks, like, you cannot do that all day long, you know. I think there's you can do that.
Actually, I was gonna ask this from someone, because I tell you how I feel when I let's say at La Poma riding the big line, and I always feel like I'm fatigued in my mind. So I'm mentally fatigued, not physically. I'm earlier fatigued mentally. It's like the feeling I try to explain, maybe someone listening can relate, but I feel after, you know, trying some dangerous stuff that I could crash from. It's the adrenaline, it's the focus, like being like, I know I cannot mess this up. I have to really get this right. It's the focus, the fear management that comes with it. Like, that thing tires me out. So like, I don't know, like 30-40 minutes of that, and then I either, once I feel like I'm getting tired, I start making mistakes, and then that's when I know I have to like either leave that, or don't do, like, just do like easier tricks, or go to the smaller jumps or whatever, or the airbag, because otherwise I would crash. From experience, I know I would crash. So what about you? How's it working for you?
Definitely. I think like I can only agree. I think like the level of focus, you know, you cannot keep that for too long, you know.
It's very hard.
There's some time that you have some window, but that's exactly what I'm kind of talking about. I think this goes together. And
the physical fitness should be there. Like, you couldn't afford to be physically exhausted before you, like, you know what I mean? Like, the mental element should be the bottleneck, not the physical. That's what I believe.
For sure, but yeah, so I think like, you're right there, and I feel the same. I don't think you can be sending something like a whole day, you know.
Maybe someone can, I don't know, but this is how I feel.
But you have like, I don't know, there's maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, but that's the maximum. I think this goes to I think this also goes to contest, you know, or like you could be doing the tricks, like the biggest tricks all the time, but you also kind of saving yourself for the run as well. But that, like, that moment when you want to put together that best run that you were planning, I think, like, there's like that 100% focus on that, but you cannot do this the whole day, you know.
No, it takes so much energy,
peak, and it takes a lot of energy from you. And I think
I'm just curious, like, what do you think would be the best way to train this, besides obviously doing that more? Like, the more you do that, the longer you can focus. I think so. But do you think there's anything else you can do?
I think there probably are like techniques to do that. There are like different types of trainings, but that's really not a question for me, because like, I've never done anything like that.
I was just curious.
I've never really done anything like that, but there are definitely like ways for like mental training, and yeah, so definitely there are ways, but I've never practiced anything like that, you know.
I see.
think it was always like more just focusing on the writing directly, and
yeah, I see.
At least that.
I'm just thinking maybe I'm just gonna drop something on the table, and maybe someone listening like could try. I think meditation could help, like, because that's concentration. Like, that's a concentration task. Just keeping attention on like one thing. And also, I believe maybe you can train this like elongated concentration just by doing some exercises that challenges your movement coordination, juggling with balls, you know, jump rope or something like that, and do that as long as you're done tired out. Because I think there it's easier to push your limits, because on the bike you're not gonna push it so much. But with juggling, sure, like, I will drop the balls after 1 hour of juggling because I'm tired, and I can just push and force it. I don't know. Maybe I try.
It could be. Yeah, I think, like, definitely there are ways to practice that, but I never, like, at least me personally, I never took it to that way, and never really experimented with that. So
yeah. You also mentioned, because we started talking a lot about like the gym side of the things and how it's impacting your ride. You said in the beginning you feel physically stronger. At the end, you feel more probably united with your bike. You feel like better on your bike for understandable reasons, because you ride as much as you can. So tell me about the time when you are preparing for a competition, or you are at La Poma the previous couple months, trying to ride as much as you can. So what is your mindset towards riding that? Like, if you wake up, like, do you have a goal of how many times you want to ride a week? Obviously, wind, rain, etc. can like take that over. Do you have some agenda with yourself? And if you don't feel like riding, do you still go, or do you just, like, how do you decide whether go or
actually that was always like thing, and it maybe goes a little bit together with what we were talking about before. Like, when I spent like a lot of time in Poma, for example, I feel like I never did too much of riding like every day. I always like was aiming for like a quality riding, you know.
Okay.
So not so
quality over quantity here.
So for example, like I've seen this many times when I was spending a lot of time there. I would maybe spend like a month or 2 months even, you know, and I had friends coming for a week, and they obviously only had a week, and they wanted to ride as much as they could. They wanted to go in the morning, you know, even though it was windy, it was not perfect. You knew you're not gonna ride like the big jumps, but obviously they only had a week, and like understandably, like they wanted to enjoy that as much,
make the most out of it.
You know? Yes. For me, like, for a lot of people it looked weird, you know, but I was like I'm just not going, you know, if the conditions are not good. Like, I was really trying to, when I go ride, to ride on kind of like a high level, and have good sessions, and the quality over quantity at some point. Like, obviously there is a time in your preparation where you just want to be on your bike and spend that time, let's say, in the beginning. Like, I think if you don't ride a bike for a bit, maybe coming back from an injury, you don't really care about the quality. You just want to go out, ride, be on the bike, hold the
motivation is there every day. Yeah,
there is the motivation, but also it's like, I think you benefit from that because you haven't been riding bike for a while. You just want to spend that time on the bike and getting the confidence back and stuff, you know. But when you are on that level and you feel good, I think for me it always felt better to, you know, I didn't want to have bad sessions.
I can relate. Yeah, it could be counterproductive, no?
Like if I feel like it's not, or at least that was like my kind of like view on that, was like I don't want to have bad sessions and to mess with my mind. I want to go, and when I go ride, I want to feel like I'm you know, progressing, or at least like riding at certain level. It doesn't necessarily have to be like progressing every time, but at least riding at certain level and feeling like, okay, like I'm, you know, where I want to be. So yeah, that, and I think, like, I don't know, maybe this is too like detailed in a way, but I always was that kind of rider that I never had a million tricks, you know. I never had 1,000 tricks like some guys do. I knew if I go to a contest, that I have a certain number of tricks, you know, and this is kind of what I was like always focusing on. Not maybe necessarily pushing forward too much all the time, but being able to show up to contests and know that, okay, I can do my few big tricks and be ready for that, you know. And that
makes sense, yeah.
Like, so trying to do this like repetitions of the stuff that I can do, even though like big tricks like keeping all the time. But
I see, like keeping those tricks fresh, right? Like just making sure you can do those tricks
for sure
as often as you can. Yeah, I'm actually trying the same. Just like making sure I'm not trying to like throw all the new tricks in, just making sure like the basics are there, like not moving. I know, like not moving to 360 double tail whip if I feel like, you know, 10 out of 7 or 10 out of 4, you know, 360 tail whips are not that good. Like I'm just, okay, I landed, but it's not too good. Why would I, you know, take the extra risk? So I can definitely relate. And I can also relate to the thing you said about like not necessarily pushing a lot and riding every day, because I tried that, I think last year, early this year. I tried to like go almost every day, like that's like 4, maybe 5 times a week, because then the weather comes up. But I felt like after a while I was like just going every day and I just didn't want it to go. I just went, but I just don't want to be there.
So obviously like when I'm talking about like going to Spain or something and spending there in the time, I would ride every day if the weather's like, if it's rideable, if it's possible to ride, I would go every day, definitely. Like, I mean, I'm spending the money just being there, and my goal is to ride bikes as much as I can, but as much as I can in the good conditions and in the way that I feel I progress in some kind of way. And so yeah, I think like if that makes any sense, you know.
It makes perfect sense, dude.
Always trying to like probably not overdo it with the quantity that kind of affects the quality at some point, you know. If you're gonna like that was like what I was trying to explain was like when I had the friends that came for like a week over and they wanted to ride all the time, you know. If you ride 5 hours, you know, the small jumps or skate park or whatever, what you kind of maybe don't care about as much, it's just kind of like killing the time just being on the bike. And then like the time when the wind dies down, you know, comes and you like already tired and you're not ready to,
not inspired, etc.
You're not ready to like ride on a certain level. I think it's maybe better to like
I agree.
At some point it's better to like wait and then give it like more effort in the shorter time and give the quality. But there's definitely, I think the time spent on the bike you cannot like replace with anything in my mind. It's period. You have to spend the time on the bike, you know.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. What about the days when, let's say it's a perfect day, right? It's like sun is shining, or maybe not. At La Poma it's better if it's not shining. There is no wind. You can ride the best lines, whatever. Like you can ride anything you want. And it's not a good day. Like you just go there, you want this to be good, you did the mental preparation, you have the tricks you want to practice, and somehow the things just doesn't feel right. You just try your best, but you feel that even the medium level tricks are not working well for you. Do you have those days? You know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
for
What
sure.
do you do then? What do you do then? I'm super curious. Like, what's
Like
your...
for sure, there's like I would say there's more of those days than the perfect days when you feel.
It's good to hear I'm not the only one.
There's I would say like you're always excited when you go ride and you have all the expectations,
Yes.
like thinking about it at home that the tricks that you're gonna do, and you're gonna do something new, or you're just gonna do all your biggest tricks and feel good, because the feeling, but
Yes.
you ride good, you're excited, and it's the best thing in the world. But like yeah, obviously I would say there's, at least for me, like there's maybe more of those days when you're not feeling perfect and you're not feeling super dialed on your things. And but usually I think you can push through. Usually you can push through, and like maybe step back a little bit, do some basics, and start like slower. Some days you show up and you can start doing your biggest tricks and it just
Yeah.
works, but I would say mostly doesn't. And it's like maybe it has something to do with the, like, how excited for writing, and then
I
like
think so.
it doesn't really meet your expectations, and then you're kind of like feeling down, and it has like this whole effect, on you
Interesting.
mentally, that that you're super excited, you want to write good, but you don't meet your expectations, and that gets in your head, and it gets worse and worse and worse.
Okay, let me
So I
ask you this,
think,
because I think this is interesting. When you were 16 or 17 or something, did you had more like good days or inspiring days than these difficult days? How do you, like, if you think back, or do you
I
think it
don't
was
know.
the same?
Actually, I think it probably was the same. I think it always was the same.
I see.
At least this is my feeling, but it's like it's kind of, I think this is also, these are the things that are hard to remember,
I
because
agree.
the way our mind works, like I think we tend to forget the frustrating moments,
Exactly, yeah. And
to
you
be
remember for
able
the
to,
good stuff.
just to
Yeah.
be able to push through life, because otherwise we would all be depressed, I think. but
Fair enough. Yeah, you got
but
some good points there.
we talked about it like just before we started the podcast. Actually, I think like the thing that I said, like for example, with Poma, with the Spain, going there every winter, you have the expectations, you think like it's the best place ever, and I can't wait to be there, because at home it's snowing and it's cold, and you show up, you go there, you show up, and you're like, how could I forget that it's like windy every day, and if it's not windy, it's the sun in your eyes, and I always tend to forget this,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
show up every year and be like, how could I forget about this,
Yeah. And then
because
you there, and it's never as good as you imagined it to be,
yeah.
right?
But I think this is just how our mind works,
Dude, next
and,
time you have that, just call me. Just like, hey, Blaze, how's it at La Poma? And I can say like, okay, last 3 days in a row, too windy. Yesterday I tried to ride, but the sun was like just frying my
yeah, I
eyes.
would I
So
would probably
don't
I would
worry.
probably go anyways, I'd
Give
probably
me a
go
call.
anyways, and figure out myself. But I think yeah, so I would say like,
Pushing through, that's what you said. That's a
yeah,
key thing. Like
pushing
you
through,
go there, it
just
doesn't
kind of like,
gradually building it up, you said,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
pushing through.
just kind of like try to have fun with it, maybe do some easier stuff, take a step back, and slowly build up. I think that's like that's the main thing, or this is something that works for me. I
Mm-hmm.
had I had a actually it's couple, like it's like a week or 10 days. I just went to Switzerland to ride Skill Spark, like for a few days, and I had that day, the day before I was riding pretty good. I felt good, even though I wasn't on the dirt jump bike for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and it was and I
Maybe
felt
that's
good
why.
that maybe. And then the next day, I showed up, I thought like I'm gonna do some more stuff, and it just wasn't really working the way I thought, and I sat down for a bit, took my time, went back, started slowly, and in the end it was a pretty good session. So I think like it's
I
that's the
experience
way.
the same often. I can confirm I feel the same many times.
Yeah, maybe it's just like the pressure we put on
I
ourselves.
know it's hard. It's hard to tell, dude, why, but
and
could also be expectations.
Especially riding something like an airbag, you go to ride an airbag, you don't want to start riding like straight jumps, and kind of like warm up with the tricks as well. You maybe do few, you do 5 tricks, like jump straight, so I don't know, but then you want to start doing tricks because like it's not fun doing like simple stuff
It's
into
boring,
airbag. Obviously that's not why you're there. But yeah, kind of I think like that usually works for me. Like just sit down for a bit, take your time, kind of calm down, maybe play a game on your phone for a bit, kind of get away from that, and then start again and start slowly, and get back into it. As I said, I had this like kind of a day just a week ago or something, and it ended up being a pretty good session.
I see. Jakub, you've been riding for quite a while now. So I'm super curious, what would you say to the question of how do you stay motivated? Like, how do you continue to push yourself to new levels in your riding? Or if not, then what do you do with riding?
I think
what's your approach?
I think with it sounds like a cliche, I think, like, but it has to be fun, it has to be something that you live for in a way, I think. So I think it was always quite natural, and I think we can always learn from like our losses, and like and that can motivate you, but also like your wins can motivate you. So I think like I don't know, I always see myself riding bikes, and I think like a good example for me, like I had, maybe we talk about it later, but I had quite a few injuries like over my career, if I can call it career, so and I think like I'm usually like, when you get injured, you quite down like mentally, but it always like comes back, week into an injury, and I'm already thinking like, so what's going to be the next thing that I'm going to do, so I think it comes like quite natural to me. But also what I enjoy a lot is like switching bikes, switching the thing up,
making it fun, right? Like trying new stuff,
riding different bikes,
different spots,
and kind of keeping it fresh as much as you can, which is difficult, I think. If you try to compete and practice, you're gonna ride similar spots most of the time, when you're at home, and you go to competitions, they're probably going to be like the similar places that you've been, but kind of trying to keep it fresh in some kind of a way. But I don't really have a recipe for this. It was always kind of natural, I would say, something that I wanted to do, and like,
so you just naturally wanted to progress,
where I wanted to see myself,
right? That's what you say. You naturally, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't even matter what you do. Just like try new stuff because you just want to have fun. Like it doesn't really matter if it's like big bike.
Could say it that way. I think like to relate with the competitions, it was always like, okay, so most people know me as a slopestyle rider. This is what I'm doing, and I want to see myself at Crankworks, so that is like the higher motivation, like this is where I want to be. So I think it goes that way, if you want to be, if I wanted to see myself at Crankworks, I knew like, okay, I have to like put more time in it, learn some new tricks, do that. And that's kind of like the whole like way the path you're walking, I think.
I see.
So like a bigger goal in a way, that you have further. But yeah, just just kind of like having fun with it. And I think like I always just enjoyed riding bikes, you know.
I
So
see.
I was lucky enough, and I am still lucky enough, this being kind of my job. I don't do anything else, so it's kind of natural that you just go out and ride. This is what I do, you know.
Yeah, this is who you are at the end of the day, almost, kind of.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Ready to talk about challenges and difficult times?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
try it.
Tell me a story of a hardship or, you know, a difficult time that teach you a very valuable lesson, like something that you overcome that was very difficult, and then you feel like you learned a lesson from that. And what was the lesson? You can take your time. You don't have to go right now. You can take some time thinking.
Yeah, for sure. So I think like the easiest thing to talk about in that way is obviously injuries. That is something that is a part of the sport. Seems like it was more of a part like back in the day. I think now it's not as common to have like more injuries. I think it comes
more
like
airbags, more
with,
resi, more
for
foam
sure, for sure.
facilities.
Yeah, maybe also the courses and the jumps being a little bit safer, stuff like that.
Yeah, it could also be.
But like when you ask this, it like first thing that comes to my mind was like probably my first bigger injury, you know. It was year 2010. It was when I already signed my first like bigger contract with Rose Bikes that I still ride to this day. But I was still riding different bikes before. It was for the upcoming season, and by the end of the season, I tore my ACL. So I destroyed my knee on a stupid high jump competition.
Okay.
So and in that time, I felt like I was riding really good, you know, and everything was looking good. I was 18 years old or something. No, I was 20 years old. You know, I was 20 years old, and I thought I'm invincible. You know, no injuries whatsoever.
See, and then torn
Kind of,
ACL
or
and then broken.
some small injuries before, but I thought, you know, I was still that naive, and I thought thinking like, oh, nothing's ever gonna happen to me, you know. And this was my biggest fear in that time, the knee injuries. This is what I've seen around me, you know, and it was like something that I was like so afraid of. And then it happened to me, and the first days and maybe weeks, you know, I really thought like my riding, you know, was over, and in that time kind of felt like my life was over in a way, you know.
Yeah.
Like just like difficult
Did you
times,
felt
you know.
depressed?
I don't know. I think like depressed is such a strong word that and I'm not sure if I know the exact meanings, you know. So I wouldn't like go that route, but like I was feeling really bad in that time, you know, and then yeah, everything looked horrible, you know. But then obviously I started talking to people and to my friends that went through those types of injuries, and I realized it was something that a lot of people went through, and they made their comeback, you know. And you see like every other soccer player has this type of injury, and they're back, you know. So yeah, that was something that was like very hard in that time, first big injury. But I pushed through. I was back on the bike in actually super quick, in like 4 or 5 months after surgery.
Okay.
And
It's
I
considered
think
quick,
like
yeah.
the just to believe in yourself, you know, and
Yeah, what was the
push,
lesson? Yeah.
and just push through. What was the lesson? I
Yeah,
think
what did
like
you learn from it?
just keep pushing, you know, just keep pushing. Whatever your struggles are in the moment, you're probably going to be able to figure that out, and hopefully you'll be back on the track.
Nothing stays forever, right? The only thing that's certain is change in our day and age. So
I guess, yeah. So it's like, obviously, even with the injuries, you can have some limitations afterwards, but I think you have to look what you can do with that, and figure out what's the new situation, and just keep pushing. I
Yeah,
think
you did a lot of physio back then, because you say when push,
oh, yeah.
I was thinking like you were like doing the physio all the time,
Oh
relentlessly.
yeah, for sure. I did, and I tried to get back as soon as possible. And I did, just to get injured like couple of months in riding, again. But that was kind of
It
always
happens,
like the
yeah.
story of my riding career, I'd
I
say.
see.
Lots of comebacks, smaller or bigger, but always keep showing up, and keep pushing and keep riding. I think that's kind of the lesson, or that was like the first time, it really hit me, when I was like, fuck, this didn't really go the way, my way.
Yeah,
But I think, yeah, if you're asking the lesson, I think that's it. Just keep pushing and keep going.
I see. I like that. What do you do to prevent injuries? Like, do you warm up, or do you sometimes do stretching, or just like doing some kind of like movement coordination or movement stability thing? So by the way,
Not as much.
Siri started talking in the background. I hope you cannot hear that.
No, I couldn't hear it.
Yeah,
No, I
that's all
couldn't
right.
hear it. Like, I'm actually really bad with these things, and I wish I've done more of like stretching and more mobility, trainings and stuff like that. We are doing a little bit with the trainer, with my coach, like for that kind of stuff. We're doing a little bit of that, and he's trying to make me more bendy, I think. Like, he always says that one day you'll do the heel clicker. I highly doubt that, but but
I like that. I want to see
um,
some heel clickers from you in the next few years.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's his goal.
That's not
I'm
yours. Yeah,
not
fair
sure if
enough.
it's possible for me, because I've never been
Maybe
really.
you just kick and then just leave it there and then like that.
Maybe we'll see, but yeah, I wish probably I've done more, but I've kind of always been like this, like, stiff kind of guy. But yeah, like,
Do you
to
really feel the benefit of the actual? Because I think some people don't even like, they try and they don't see the benefit, so why would they do it? You know what I mean? Like, is it that you don't? Is it that you do see the benefit? You just never actually like focused on it, or is it more like the actual fact that you don't do it is that you don't actually see that much of a benefit?
Like, I think I've never done enough
Okay, to
to
see the
actually
benefit.
like see big benefits, but I definitely believe in that, and I'm trying to get better all the time. So I'm trying to do it, but I don't know, if I would say that I spend a lot of time stretching, it would probably be a lie. So
Dude.
I wish I did. I wish I did, but I never like gave it enough, I think, in that way,
Interesting.
but as you're like, so I think your question was like how you prevent injuries. I don't know, I probably wasn't very good with that in my life, but I
You're
think
the
like
recovery. You're the comeback guy, the recovery guy.
I think so, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like a first thing is definitely knowing your limits, and then, like, I had to learn hard way, but not to do stupid stuff,
Yeah.
like being just, I think, like, these days
Mhm.
it's kind of normal, and when having the access to the airbags and the training, like, possibilities are much better, it kind of
Mhm.
changing that direction. That's what's also I was
Yes.
saying, that I think there is in general less injuries, even though the level of riding is much higher than
Yeah.
what it used to be.
Yeah.
You know.
Just to add to that, like Diego in the previous podcast, he literally told me that um his biggest tricks, he usually tries them on airbag or just a safe jump, and then he keeps up like the craziest tricks, just keeping up the momentum with that. I need to shut this off. Well, the thing is, I do apologize. So the thing is, he told me that he's not going crazy with those tricks. He's make sure that he practices them in a safe environment, and then he drops them on the competition. Makes perfect sense to me. Like, why would you try to kill yourself every day if you can just like practice in a safe environment? So that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that and then just trying to stay healthy, you know, with the training and feeling like as strong as you can. So it's, I would say, quite simple, and I think most of it as like preventing the injuries, but also like with the level of your riding is being mentally like strong and being in the right place in your mind, you know, whether like is the preparation, but or actually like trying or doing the trick, like being confident. I think this is this is the key, the main thing, you know, that you can do.
How do you do that? Like, how one does that?
So I think like it's just, it is that actual writing part, you know, like being like writing as much as you can and spending the time. I think that always gives you that feeling that you really know what you're doing and that you spend the time. And this is something that I wanted to say before with the gym training, you know. You know, I don't want to make it sound that I'm not like the guy that's going to the gym every day, you know. I'm not the like doing it all the time. I do a bit. I know that there are guys that do way more. There are guys that do less or none of that.
Okay.
But I always felt like also the benefit for me, like spending some time like with the preparation, if it's like off the bike, if it's the gym or like I like to go swim, you know, I do that kind of stuff. Like I always felt like mentally this helps me in that way, that I feel like I know I spent some time, you know, there was the preparation. Also during, I don't know, swimming or being in the gym, you're probably thinking about riding bikes, you know, and doing like a squat or whatever. I'm thinking like, I'll do the double backflip, you know, at the competition. Kind of like thinking about that, spending that time and knowing in back of your mind, knowing that you gave it that time and that effort to be ready and be prepared as much as you can. You know, I think that's kind of the way. And then also like if it comes to like doing tricks, you know, so I think it's definitely knowing your limits, and if you're trying something, like knowing that you did it into airbag, foam pit, whatever, like enough times, and kind of just that gives you that confidence. I think it's simple as that, you know.
I see.
I don't have a special way, you know, or anything like any secret. I think it's just that.
That's what I wanted to ask also, like as for, let's say, new tricks and stuff like that. Do you like when you're nervous, right? Or you're like afraid of the whatever you're about to try. Do you have anything that you do in order to like deal with that nerve, deal with that anxiety?
No, like it depends where it is. If it's like a competition or if it's at home just doing the trick, I think that's a very different kind of scenario.
Let's talk about both. Like you can start with, let's say you are at home and you are trying a new stuff, like a new trick to wherever you want to try it, but it should be something that scares you.
Yeah, so I think like it's just, obviously it's like to be able to visualize, you know, what you want to
visualize it.
So definitely visualizing, definitely. Even probably if you learn a new trick these days, you can check like a videos of someone else doing it, or because I don't think I've ever really done a world's first or anything like that. Is something that like maybe some combos, but like nothing, you know, breaking new grounds, you know. So you usually can prepare for that in some kind of a way. So do that, and then just go through that, and trying to like just yeah, I think I could visualize is the main
Visualize.
thing, you know. And making
can you
sure,
try explain how you visualize? Because I think
and
many
making
people
sure, and what I wanted to say, like making sure that you're actually feeling good for that, you know. Don't push yourself like into something that you know that maybe it's not the day for it, you know.
Okay.
Like it's not always a day to do a new trick, you know, even though you practiced enough times before. I think like a lot of times we say like with Deo Kovac, like the guy that I ride with most of the time.
Oh, I know
We say
him very well. Yeah.
the time has to come for some tricks, you know. Sometimes it's like you're trying something real hard, like, and it just doesn't work, and then you get back to it like maybe half a year later, and
let it go, and then the time will
and
come.
then just the time comes, you know, and it just goes by itself. So so yeah, that kind of like being in the right space in your mind. So visualizing when you
for the people, for the people listening, because so many people told me they visualize, but how do you visualize? Maybe you can tell people like what you do exactly when you want to visualize something.
So
let's say you visualize like, I don't know, triple tail whip. Like what? Like how do you visualize? What's the method?
So I would say a trick that I have, like maybe a flip supersede.
Okay.
It's a good example. Like that's like a trick that was fairly new for me. Like I started doing like maybe 2 years ago. So I think like there's, you know, for some tricks there are the key moments that you have to get right, unless it's just not gonna work.
Okay.
Right. So for that trick, is definitely like you have to grab the seat first, you know. So you can
that's helpful,
for sure. But you, like, it sounds funny like that, but you cannot jump into it, you know, or at least I can.
Okay.
You know, I have to make sure like, okay, I go seat first, then go for the extension.
I see.
So I would even like if I'm really scared, or if I haven't done it for a while, I would even just stand on the bike and just try to grab the seat, you know, real quick,
to know where it is. Yeah,
just know where it is.
Feel.
You know, and then do the repetitions, and if it's a jump, make sure that you jump and just you do the flip, just grab the seat and make sure that you know that it's there, and convince yourself like that you have done it enough times in the past, and then usually comes to the moment where you have to do it. You know, maybe this is not the greatest example because it's kind of an extension trick. It's not something.
No, it's a good example.
You know, but just go through these steps. You know, if you're not feeling confident, maybe even go back. You know, start again until you feel like you're ready for that, and then when it's go time, just trust your instincts and say like, this is the time I go for it, and just shut off your mind.
I see.
And that's something that at contests happens kind of natural, you know, that when the pressure builds up to your run, and then like it is the go time, and this is something you've been preparing for a long time, you know, before the contest and during the practice and stuff. Now is the time to go. Like that's the go time, and there's no turning back, you know. So I think that you have to make the preparation, think of these, like all the steps, all the small steps you went through in the training before, and then just execute. I think I don't have a better explanation for that. I think
I see. To take it back to the time when you visualize, I'm just curious, do you only visualize the actual execution of the trick, or do you also visualize like all the moments leading up to, like you like, do you close your eyes and, you know, think about how you are going down, how the pedal feels on your feet, and then I don't know how the sun is, like, do you try to visualize like all the moments like going there, or you just only visualize the trick?
I would say if it comes to a trick, I would really like just visualize the actual trick. I think the rest is kind of natural if you ride bikes so much. You know? Yes. I think like this is something probably if you're trying to learn that like new trick, if we're talking about tricks, really, like this is something you don't even want to think about. If you're feeling good, this stuff kind of feels natural, I think.
Yes.
It's just your second nature, riding on the bike.
Mm-hmm.
And if everything feels right, this is something you don't want to think about. I
Yeah.
feel like,
I like it. Yeah. The reason I'm asking is like when I read about visualization in a book, it's just literally told like visualize every single like tiny fragment of the whole picture, the way you hold your handlebar, the way you put your feet on the pedal as you are rolling in. But what you say makes sense. Like you don't
I think
actually
like
want to
it can be beneficial for some stuff, but I
maybe
think like
golf or something else could be, I don't know.
but I don't have the example. I never thought about it that way, but I think like if you're trying to learn a new trick, like I think it's good that if like this all stuff that is leading into it like should be already natural. And I
Yeah,
think
of
that
course.
if I stand on my bike, with the setup that I like, with how the grips feel, with if I have the right shoes that like feel right with the pedals, I know that they're just have that like the right amount of grip that I like, not too much, not too little. And this all that little stuff that goes into it, I in the ideal situation, I I don't want to think about it. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
think about if the rebound in my fork is set up right,
Yeah.
or if like there's something that I have to
I
be
think
thinking about. Like
I think it's
if
interesting.
if ev-
I think the point is really to like once you visualize all the events leading up to that moment, it's easier to actually visualize the trick maybe, because then you are in like you close your eyes and then you can tap into a deeper, I don't know, part of your brain when you
it
can
could be
feel the trick more. I don't know.
it could be.
That's
I
the
think
only
like
explanation I could, because what you
maybe
say makes sense. You don't think about those things, never.
maybe what you're saying is maybe when you learn something completely new,
Could be, yeah.
if you're going for some type of rotation that you're scared of, like
Yeah.
for the first time.
First time front flip or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. um we just went through this like with a friend of mine, like as I was saying, I was in Skills Park a week ago, and he did his first front flip. You could like
It's scary, yeah.
that was obviously like a big thing for him, even doing it into an airbag, like just going over that fear, like just leaning forward and actually committing for the front flip.
Yes.
But I think like most of the times, if you're doing some type of combos and stuff,
I
like
agree.
you already know the basic, and you're trying to add something to that, like it's a bit different feeling.
I
But I
think
would
good
say like
points there, for sure.
sometimes when I'm visualizing a trick, also maybe a trick that I already can do, but I maybe haven't done for a while, or something that like always scares me. There are some tricks that always scare you like a little bit.
Can you give me an example? Like
Like
I
for
would love
example,
to.
I I can do like 3 down whips for a long time,
Okay,
but I don't do them very often. I just don't like to do it too often.
I see.
And there is a moment for me when I take off, I have to like lean over the bars like a lot, kind of into a like a flat spin kind of feeling, over the bars. And that always scares me, like that split of a second, that is right off the takeoff when I have to like lean over. Obviously, the more you do it, but like it gets better.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
that like if I don't do it for a while now, for example, I wasn't riding the dirt jump bike for a bit. I haven't done it for a bit. Like going back into it, like I only think about that moment, that specific moment, because I know the rest is like
I see.
it's fine. That's like that one moment that I have to make sure that I do correct, and take care of that.
Did you ever crash really bad from it? Could it be
Oh, for
maybe
sure.
because
For
okay,
sure.
so maybe it's
For
because
sure.
of that, no?
Yeah,
Like
for
some
sure.
bad memory.
Yeah. And this is a similar thing. This is a similar thing for example, what I was talking about, the flip super and seat grab. For me, for example, like it can be different for other people, but for me, the one thing that I really have to make sure, it's like I go for the seat first. And this is when I think about that trick, like doing it somewhere, this is kind of, I would say, pretty much the only thing that I'm thinking about. I don't have the experience with this trick, at least. Like, I don't have the experience with like over rotating, under rotating, stuff like that. This usually comes like very natural.
Okay.
Extension depends, sometimes you just don't feel it that like good or whatever. But like that one thing that I really think about, when I go for that trick, like, it's just that, there's so much more into it that goes into that trick. Like, it's kind of a complex thing.
Of course.
But
yeah.
like, I only think about that one thing, because the rest is I think already like so natural.
I see. And it's the same, like you crashed, you lost the seat once and you had like a bad crash from that? Or
I didn't crash. Like, definitely happened to me into airbag,
Okay. It's a bad crash as well. You can crash.
Yeah.
I crashed
I
many
didn't
times.
like hurt myself like doing it or something, but I knew like it happened to me a couple times into an airbag, for example, and I knew that like,
it could happen. Yeah, if it happens in an
could
airbag,
happen,
it could
but
happen.
You have to make sure this doesn't happen, because this is the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So there is sometimes like these like little things that are more important than anything else. And this is something like that when we talking about that, like, this is something I try to visualize, like, okay, this is that one moment that I have to make sure that it's right.
I see. Okay, Jakub. The next one is, I would just love to know, what do you think, what would make someone, like, what are the most important skills, attributes that make someone great in this sport? Like, what would you say are the most important things?
Like, I have like one thing that I realized the past few years, like watching other guys and at Crankworks, like specifically talking about Emil, about Eric, mainly them two, actually, I would say, like, is the confidence they ride with. And I think it's I wouldn't say, like some people say 90%, I don't think so, but like a big part of the sport, of all the actions or freestyle sport, I think, is your mind and your confidence.
I see.
Like obviously, like, what we're doing is difficult, difficult movements, but it's not like, it's obviously like quick movements. There's a lot of like skill techniques and stuff like that, like, goes into it. Like, also you have to be able to ride your bike actually well, not only do the tricks, which is sometimes what you see in some riders, that they can do the tricks but they cannot really ride the bike. Maybe they don't have the basics. So there's lots and lots that goes into it, that makes the whole thing, together. But if you like, also at these, like at the top level, I would say, like, if you look at like Crankworks events and stuff,
okay,
like, I think most of the riders like can do majority of the trick. You could, but it's a mental game, I think. And there was one moment, or maybe a couple moments, when I kind of realized this, like, seeing the confidence, for example, Eric is riding with, we showed up in Innsbruck, it's a big course, kind of always intimidating for me to ride at least like few first laps, and I seeing like a first training, I'm going straight, doing techno henders, maybe like, then you're like, oh, okay, like, let's just flip this step down or something, like, just push, like, slowly pushing through, getting the routines, and I see, like, I go second run and I see Eric doing flip whip on a jump that he's not even gonna flip, in the contest. He's gonna do some 3 combo, and that made me think, and I, since then, I kind of was focusing on that, and seeing, especially in those two that I mentioned, like, you can see the confidence that they ride with, and that usually gives them the edge, at the end. So that is like kind of went around, but that's my answer to that. I think it's the confidence and being just being confident and trusting your skills and abilities, which
I
is
see.
in a lot of situations it's not easy, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. Like, if this hypothesis of yours, and I pretty much agree, to be honest. Like, I think this plays a very big role. And so if this is true, like,
this is just to say, like, just to add to that, like, definitely there's so much that builds your confidence.
Of course.
It is the time that you spend on the bikes. It is the time that you spend with the training and preparation and making sure your bike is dialed and everything's dialed, and maybe you feel good in your clothes, all those little details. But I think the end goal is like that, to build your confidence within the riding.
I see.
And that is like the end product, I would say.
Yeah.
So it is the mental game, I think.
It also sounds like a flywheel effect, and I tell you why. Because if confidence is one of the most important aspects of the whole thing, then if you start this sport at a very early age, and then you also have good opportunities to train in facilities when there is like foam pit, airbag, all that kind of stuff, you learn tricks fast, you get positive, confirmation from your friends, then you build this like self-image into yourself that you can do all those things. Then that boosts your confidence. With boosted confidence, you start winning events. You're winning events, more confidence, etc., etc. If on the other way you start riding, and then your first experience, or in the beginning you have a nasty crash, and then you're in the hospital, and then you're afraid of that crash, it's like a downward trajectory. So I don't want to make it sound like it's like it has a lot to do with luck, but like certainly in the beginning, I think it has a lot to do with what happens in the first year of you riding a bike. I might be wrong. And I love to, like, I like when people talk about hard work and a bunch of things, and I think those things are always very, very important. But I think also what happens in the first few years could really set the ground for your path of like riding bikes. Because I think if that goes really well, then you have the confidence, and it just like builds. What do you think about that?
It could be. I never thought about it that way, I think but yeah, it could be. It could be. I think like we are all different,
Mm-hmm.
And we
for sure.
And we all have different motivations. So I don't think there's like there's not a one way, to be successful in whatever you do in any of the activities, for us as a people. But yeah, it could be like that for many people. But I think for other people it could be also going back, from an injury, and it sometimes gives you that extra boost of extra motivation. Sometimes, I found, I think like if you have a smaller injury, or something, and you come back strong,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes this can give you like extra motivation as well, and you can keep going.
I think that's a good point.
Well.
I think that's a good point. Do you have sometimes, I have this, I'm asking, do you have it too? Sometimes I'm riding and I'm like a little bit afraid that I'm gonna crash, and I'm like, mm-hmm. I'm just operating at 80.
You want to ask about a good crash, like crash and make you feel good?
Like what I want to say is that, like,
do you have that? Do you have that? Like
maybe that's something. I'm riding at 80%. I'm running at 80%, capacity. And I'm just like riding, and I'm like, and I'm worried that, maybe I will crash. And then I crash, but it's not like I injure myself. Maybe, I have a bruise here or there. Mm-hmm. And I crash, and I'm like, that's it. Like, that's what I was afraid of. I crashed big, and that's all. And then I'm like just going back, and I'm like, okay, let's send it. And the next lap goes super well. Like, do you have that?
Yeah. This is what I was saying. Like a good.
It's so
crash,
weird to me. Yeah.
Some crashes some crashes are good. Like if you being super scared.
Yeah.
And then you crash, and And actually, especially if it's like a big crash and nothing happens, you know,
Yeah.
like, whoa, I can take
you feel like
that. Like
Superman. I'm like,
that's good, you know, like, yeah. So sometimes like I think the motivations and the motivations can be very like different for everyone, you know. So some people, some like as the writing starts, you know, some people crash all the time, some people very rarely crash, you know. So
yeah.
so I don't know, like I think yeah, as I said, like the confidence is something that shows in the end, but obviously there's a long way that and lots of things that goes into it. But yeah, as I said, like I was watching like specifically these guys, you know, and they look so different in the practice, you know, than most of the other guys. Like just more confidence. And I was always like, after I realized this, you know, I was always looking at them. I was like, well, I would like to, you know, I would like to be like have this, you know, like
It's like a
and I see it
superpower.
now. Yeah, and this gives you like that. This just like makes you go that next level, you know.
Yeah, it just
I think
gives you
like
the edge you need.
one example you can see now is Hoopy.
Yes,
that you
he was the
also
first one
interviewed.
on the podcast, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so Lucas Hooper, he was kind of a he was always a good writer since he was like 16 or 15, you know. As long as I remember him, the first time I've seen him at Rocky there, like he was already good, you know, and he was kind of the local hero. And he was good for a long time, you know, but then something clicked, you know. I think maybe last year, and now he's like on
another level.
You know?
Maybe we should ask him what happened. Yeah.
And you can see the confidence in him, you know. Also riding like not only dirt jump, but like riding big bike, you know, and everything. He seems like, you know, super confident. And you like getting to the
interesting
Eric territories of confidence, I think.
I see. Dude, maybe we should ask him what happened. Maybe I reach out to him after this podcast. I would love to know.
But it was like, it was actually, I think like for him, it was also like last winter, we talked about it, like we were in Sweden together and we talked about it, and he was like, yeah, he just went all in with the practice and gave it,
of course,
really like his all, you know. So yeah,
definitely. But he also sounds very positive. Like I had the podcast with him, and I would highly recommend to listen, for you to listen as well, or anybody listening right now. Like when I asked him, like, you know, like about like how often he trains and like good or bad days and stuff like that, he was like not really, like, I think what I remember is he was not really talking much about bad days. He's like, no, like, yeah, some days are not too good, but you full send. And then it's just like it sounded like he's super excited and positive to go ride. Like that's just there.
For sure.
It's not something he struggles to have. And so why is that? I don't know. Like that's in his mind, but he's just motivated to like accomplish more, for sure.
For sure. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't have a way or to tell you or the listeners how to achieve this, but this is something that I have observed, you know, and this is kind of what I realized, that this is something that separates the good riders from the best, you know, I would say.
I see. Okay. Next question is really like, what does it mean to you to be a mountain bike rider? Like, can you, and we already like spoke about many things, so maybe you can just briefly touch a few, but what are the biggest things you would say, like, okay, these things I got from mountain biking and I'm super happy? We can start with confidence, because it definitely built your confidence from a very young age.
I hope so. I'd like to hope so. I don't know what it gave me, like if I would say what mountain bike gave me, there's so many things, you know, like I met so many people, you know, and I was able to live the kind of a lifestyle I do still, which like I wouldn't say it was a dream of mine. It was something that I kind of deep in myself, I kind of knew or hope that I will be able to do, you know, to be at certain level. But yeah, so gave me a lot of experiences and a lot of like friends and people around me, and but also um it taught me some lessons, definitely, you know, like to
What are the
just keep
biggest
going,
lessons?
as I told you, like I
Yeah,
think the
push
main
hard,
one is
push through, keep going.
just keep going and push through, you know. And yeah, I'm so thankful. It's still the best thing that I know, or one of the best things,
That
definitely.
ever happened to you? Yeah.
Oh yeah, riding bikes and just doing what I like, you know. There's definitely there are downsides of that, you know, like um and I'm not like one of the super pros, you know, or something like that, making like great living, but I was able to do this as my profession for a long time now, and that, I think, if you think about it a little bit more, is quite amazing. So
Yeah, I agree. That's pretty amazing. Difficult challenges. We already talked about the many challenges, I think, but we mostly touched injuries, correct? So can you maybe describe me a time when you faced, or maybe some, you know, just a time when you faced a difficult decision related to your career of like riding bikes? So like, how did you approach that situation, and maybe what did you learn from it?
I don't know. This is difficult. I don't know if I ever had to make like a really difficult decisions with my writing. I don't know. I feel like it's always like I don't know. Like with the injuries, it's always like that moment you have to get over, like the part when, like, I remember like my last bigger injury was when I broke my collarbone, and it was like a third, you know, it was like a third injury in the row for
Okay.
me. So it was kind of a, yeah, back to back 3 injuries, you know, and I broke my collarbone, and it was like, again, that moment when you're thinking like, I don't know, maybe I have enough, you know.
Yeah.
But soon, you know, being in that injury, like it kind of like went away, and I was like yeah, focusing like my mind on what I'm gonna be able to do when I get back, you know, like back
I
in,
see.
in that time was, you know, not even like obviously thinking like which contest I'm gonna do next, you know, or when am I gonna be able to be back, but also like what else can I do, you know, like bike related, because this is my main thing that I do, you know. And I was thinking like, okay, so I go, you know, as soon as I can, I'll go bike packing, you know, and ride across our country, you know, which sounds epic. It's not that big of a country, so it's not like that big of a deal, but you know, make a YouTube video from that, you know, or something, you know. So something that is connected with bikes and what I'm going to do first, you know. But thinking about big decisions or difficult decisions, I don't know, like, I don't know, maybe a recent one, I don't know, I just kind of like switched my focus, I would say, on what I'm want to do on bikes, you know. As we talked, like I was competing until last year. I was competing in slopestyle for, you know, 15 years,
That's
being
a long time.
older, being the oldest guy in at the competitions for, like, at least at the biggest competitions at Crankworks, in like for 4 years or something, you know. So yeah, like kind of was thinking about it. I think in that way, like I'm not saying like I'm done with slopestyle or anything, like, or done riding hardtail bikes, by no means, you know, like but I kind of like, this is, I don't know if it's a decision, but it's like more realizing that I want to focus on other things, on bikes as well, you know. Hopefully have some opportunities to film like a bit bigger videos now. at least like creating some content that I'm gonna be happy with, and hopefully my sponsors as well, you know, and riding more other bikes than just the hardtail, because this is what I truly enjoy, and kind of let go to something that you're chasing for, like as I said, like 15 years or something, is not a simple thing. But I think in my mind I'm already like I already am fine with that, and I'm looking forward for what's to come, you know. So
Yeah.
maybe that's like one kind of a recent thing that I have in mind is yeah, this was something that I was like chasing for a long time, and I definitely want to, as I said, keep riding dirt jump bikes, slope style, everything, but trying to be at like Crankworks, trying to be a joyride, stuff like that, probably not anymore, you know.
I see. I understand. Best memories on bike. Like if you close your eyes, do you maybe have a specific memory or an image that pops in that like really sweet memory to you?
There's so many.
What is the first that comes to your mind if you like close your eyes and then like, okay, this is a happy memory?
Like it is connected. It is like, I would like to say it's something like else, you know, but it is connected to a competition, I think.
Okay.
Like I seriously, I wish I would say like it's a memory of me riding a bike for the first time, like,
no, like be honest, whatever it is,
which
it
I
is.
do
like
remember, but like if I would close my eyes, it was probably like when I put a real good run at Crankworks in Rotorua 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I was fifth, which was a good result, but I was just happy with what I put together, you know, and that's like a first thing that comes in my mind, I would say. But there would be so many more that are not connected with competitions, you know. But this was just the first one that came to my mind, you know.
I see. Worst memories, injury, or anything, or something else?
First memories in general.
Worst, yeah, in general, worst memories.
The worst injury, worst memories.
No, I mean like what is your worst memories? It could be anything. Like it doesn't have to be injury. It could be like the worst day, or like, you know, I don't know, someone stole your bike or whatever. It could be anything really. Someone let you down, or I don't know.
Connected to, I'm trying to think of if in my life what's like even the worst memory, but the worst memory, yeah, probably connected to some injuries, some of that. I think specifically, I would say, as we talked about it earlier, I think like a first bigger injury is always like tough. But then also maybe like my last injury, as I said, like it was the you know, third injury back to back or something like that's always difficult. That always like kind of is hard to overcome, you know.
Yeah, that's
mind, like
that's
mentally.
tiring. It's a bit tiring, yeah.
And this is something we talked about before. Like I said, like sometimes I think injury can even like give you some new motivation, you know, like coming back like fresh, you know, being strong again, just if you give the time to train, you know, and everything, like you're coming back fresh and motivated. I think like the worst part is like when you have back-to-back injuries, you know, and you feel like you're back and then get another setback. That's always the challenging part, I would say. But yeah, so those are usually like the worst, I guess. But
I see.
But I would like to focus more on the good memories, and yeah,
understandably, I encourage you to do that. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think
don't want to sound too pessimistic, you know, because
no, you sound very positive. You said you have like countless of good memories, and then you can barely bring up any bad memories other than like the injuries, which to me, it sounds like you're very positive and you mostly reserve the good memories on the bike, which is like, I think it's super important.
Yeah, this is what we talked about before as well.
Yeah,
I think that's how the memory works. Like I seriously, for real, I think we would all, or at least me, I would definitely freak out if the mind wouldn't work that way, you know. Kind of forgetting or rounding out the bad memories, you know. I think this is what we all need in our life, I think.
I think I forgot to ask one very important question that I will do now. In terms of like when you learn new tricks, do you like, how do you, first of all, like, do you ask your friends or the people riding with you to give opinion, like based on how the tricks are going, if they think you have to do something different? And do you record yourself on a camera and do you watch those, you know, attempts back, or how do you do? Or you just don't care, you just keep trying the tricks until you learn them?
So yeah, definitely we do record myself.
Okay, so record.
Not the way that if you would be trying a new trick into airbag, like that you would record every single try, but definitely like this is so important and makes it so much easier if you can like see what is actually going on, because obviously like sometimes we feel like a trick or something can feel some way but can look very differently. You can see it from a different angle, different perspective. That definitely helps a lot of times, you know. And then asking and then talking with the friends or the other riders, yeah, for sure. If I have someone that is someone that can relate, for sure.
Okay. And do you find those helpful as well? Like, I don't know, you trying to learn some new trick and you hit up a friend and like, bro, like, what do you do? Where do you look? How does it feel to you? Like, did you have some times when someone could help you really well with something? Like you've been struggling and then he gave you some tips and then like, okay, that's super helpful.
For sure. I had those specifically. I would say like one memory that I have like related to this, like when I learned cash rolls, or as I like to call them, Misty 720s. Like I didn't even want to learn that trick, you know, and my buddy Theo Kovac that I mentioned before, like he was like he just kind of learned that into into a foam pit, you know, and we went to ride foam pit, and he's like, dude, it's a long time ago, and he's like, dude, you have to try this, you know, trust me, give it like 10 tries, you're gonna do it. I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna do it, you know, like I don't care. He's like, you should try it, you know, like, and he gave me some tips and pointers, you know, and I think like in like 10 tries I was landing pretty much every single one, you know.
Wow.
I think for that trick there's like a couple things that you have to kind of know, and I know I tried it like maybe a year or a couple of years before, you know, and it didn't work. I had no idea what to do, and he kind of figured out, and he told me, and then like we were able to, like, actually he, funny enough, he lost that trick for a while, you know. After that we landed it like maybe a couple of days later and onto a mulch, and then like he lost it for a bit, then he gave me the tips, but
it's hard,
like,
yeah.
So that was a bit
annoying,
funny, but yeah, sometimes it helps. Like for certain tricks, I think it can really help, like to ask other people how they feel, you know. And I think like I gave him some tips on other tricks, like 720s, for example, that it's funny that sometimes you cannot, like, until you do it, you cannot process that in your mind, you know. You don't know what the person means with that, tells you how it feels, you know. In certain tricks I have that certain feeling, you know.
I see.
But unless you try and maybe you can make it once, you know, by accident or something, then it clicks, and then you know, like, oh, this is what the person meant, and now it makes total sense, you know.
Yeah.
So it definitely helps. And we had this so yeah, filming, definitely learning new trick makes total difference. 2 days, like you can hit that slow motion and see everything that you're doing wrong,
Yeah, it's
and
true.
and asking someone that has some experience with that is definitely good. And if someone's listening, most of the writers, if you gonna ask someone, people be happy to give you tips and help you progress. I
Yeah,
think
that's what I found. Like everybody's happy
we
to share
yeah
the
we I
tips.
think like the sport of like slopestyle mountain bike or all the action sports, it is, you are alone in it in a way, but I think it's also like a collective effort in some sense.
I agree. Yeah,
So most people will be always happy to help and give you tips and
I
pointers
agree.
to
I
do
agree.
that.
And
I,
another
I
thing
had I had one I
yeah,
had
go ahead.
one like one other like memory from a few days ago. As I said, like the friend of mine did his like first front flip. I don't know why I'm getting back to that all the time, but I have like exactly, we were talking what I was saying now, that sometimes you cannot understand or realize what I was like, what the person means by that, and I told him like when he's gonna snap for the front flip to stay over the bars and not to lean too far over to the front wheel. And he said like, no, it doesn't make sense, you don't do it that way.
I know what you
And then
mean. I
and
yeah,
then
I
it,
know. I
it
know the
doesn't look
feeling.
like that. He's like, I showed him the video, I do it the way I do it, and he's like, no, you totally leaning over to the front wheel. And I'm like, no, I'm not. It
Yeah,
looks like that, but in the air, you like snapping
I know because I
into
do the
like
same.
the
Yeah,
bars, into the bars. And he's like, no, it doesn't make sense. Try couple, leaned over to the front wheel, no chance, then did what I told him, and then like he's like, now it makes sense, but he didn't understand what I was saying, but then he did it once and he was like, well, it actually makes total
dude,
sense
that's
now.
so smart. That's actually so smart. I have a friend who struggles with it. I'll tell him the same because I feel that thing, but I didn't thought that it's very important. But in fact, that's super important when you do a front flip.
Sometimes like this specific trick, like some people when I try it for first, they just lean over all the way to the front wheel and kind of have no like
no rotational
leverage
force
for the rotation,
yeah.
but you kind of like snap into the like into the
It's like the
stem of your
bar.
bars,
Yeah.
but when you see it, then it doesn't look like that because you are over the bars, but
Yeah.
if you do it, kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So this is sometimes difficult to explain if you have never experienced that feeling of that certain trick, for example.
I see.
That's
Jakub,
super helpful. Yeah.
Have you ever tried a sport psychologist to help you with your with your riding to better it?
No, actually I haven't. I studied a little bit of that stuff at school, but I never really went to a professional to help me with that kind of stuff.
I see.
I never.
Okay.
To be honest, I always felt like, or if I'm thinking about it, I always felt like I had other limitations in my writing that were holding me back more than this, I don't think it ever, at least like competition stuff, like it never came to the point where I would be thinking like this is the thing that's holding me back, from better results or something like that. I always kind of thought, or I've seen like the limitations at different places, like just putting more time into the practice or having that period when you're not injured for
that helps. That could definitely help a bit, yeah.
So I don't know. I think like definitely it has like its place, like especially with the sport getting more professional, in a lot of ways. But yeah, as I said, like me personally, I never felt like this was something that was like truly holding me back from like some higher grounds,
Okay, so it's safe to say one of the biggest things, because you said like you said like not a lot of stretching. You go to the gym for sure. You work out as much as you can in off season. No sports psychologist, but like one of the biggest things that you say is like super helpful is actually recording. When you try new stuff, recording them and then asking other people who's done it before how it feels. So to me, it sounds like that's one of the biggest or most important things you can do when you're learning tricks, besides obviously working on your mindset, working on your confidence, spending time on your bike. But like one of the most important things is just like knowing how it feels, how the trick feels, and keep trying until you find that feeling. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I'm asking is that what I'm doing right now is I'm building a closed community for bike riders. And what I want to do, I just want to bring this alive and have a lot of people come in. And then they can just record this stuff and then post it in the group. And then I hope that this group becomes, because I think what you said is true. Everybody is happy to share these things. Like no one really is just like, okay, it's not like a secret cult when like nobody want to help each other. It's like really a really warm, helpful community. So I want to have a lot of people come in and then just post the videos, like whatever they try. And I think people would be happy to like give some tips.
Or at least this saying this, that people are happy to help, and give tips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think is as with everything, I think like the people, the better the people are, the more they're open to help and share their knowledge, like you can definitely bump into people in our community that are like maybe not that way, but I think like from my experience, people that that are on a, I would say, I don't know how to say, but on the high level with writing, they're usually very open to help, and share their experience, at least to some extent, definitely there is a place for proper training and coaching, but I feel like at least every pro rider, if someone goes to him and or her, and asks for tips, like they'll be happy to share,
Yeah, that's what that's what I found to be true as well. And so for everybody listening, if you guys want to be a part of this community, I'll put the link in the description, regardless if it's YouTube or Spotify. I usually share that on my Instagram as well. So you can, if you want, you can find it. The link is in the bio. You can just come in, say hi. If you're learning a trick, please post it in. If no one gets back to you, I promise I'll get back to you as much, whenever I have a little time, I will just check it out and I try my best to give you some tips if it's something I know how to do. And Jakub, if you wanna, you can also join in. Obviously, no one expects you to be there all day long and like help other people.
I'll check for sure.
But if you want, just come in, have a look, maybe share this to your audience. I can send you the link as well. You can invite some people in, and then I really hope we can just like build this up, and then from there it's gonna be like
check for sure. Like I'll be happy to,
because I feel like that's one of the biggest things. Like that's one of the biggest things, and I think some people they just don't record their videos, or maybe there are some riders, they are alone. They're like just getting started. They don't really have the friends. They are on their own. It's hard. I understand, and so that's why I want to have this community there, and because I know a lot of people would start learning tricks faster this way. So I think this would push the sport as well into like higher levels overall.
It is actually when saying like, I think it's totally true, and when saying like I think like one of the very important things, and also in the same time a big struggle for many even professional riders, is to have someone to ride with. It sounds, I think, for people from outside, it sounds like so like not like a real thing, but to have someone to ride with and is so important and like a crucial part. You like, first of all, you cannot ride alone like at the dirt jumps. There's no way, maybe if it's like at the places where a lot of people pass through, or something, but it's interesting to see like how many riders on very high level have this kind of a problem, which is something that observed as well, over the years, and it's an interesting fact actually. So yeah, so if you can substitute that a little bit with like this type of thing, maybe in at least in some way, it sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, internet is here, why not use it, right? Like it has all the cons, all the downsides of like social media and stuff like that. I'm thinking like, let's use it to our benefit. So me personally, I get motivated when I have friends around and we push each other and we cheer each other up. Like the energy is there. Obviously, obviously for someone who's riding alone, that's not there, but maybe he or she can be excited about like trying this trick, recording it, and then like sending to the group. Someone will get back, and then next day he can go again, and like, okay, he has a couple new things like he can focus on, and that's helpful. Because I think one of the most difficult things is when you want to learn something and you keep trying and it's not working and you just keep crashing the same exact way. That's so annoying. Like you don't see any progress whatsoever, and you don't even know what to try, like what to try different. Like that's frustrating, and that could kill the actual passion towards riding. And I don't want that to be.
And it's often, at certain tricks, like it's usually like the same kind of mistakes that people make, you know, and usually also like people that can do the tricks also went through that phase, so very much like how frustrating it is, but also like how sometimes easy it is to fix these things,
Yes, I had many times when I was riding here at La Poma, I progressed the most. I was trying stuff, and then I know some of the pro riders, sometimes Hoopy, sometimes Alejandro. Last time actually Chance, he was here, and then I just saw him like doing crazy good flat spins, and I was struggling with flat spin. And he just told me like 1 or 2 simple tips. And then I just went the next day and I did like 50 tries, just trying to focus on like squeezing my abdominals at the right time, as he explained to me. And like, I don't know, after like the first 10 tries, I got this trick and I'm like, okay, I see it now. And I just kept doing it, recorded all of them. And then like from there, next days I could do the flat spin. Then I lost it after a while, and then I got it back again.
That happens as well.
It was super helpful. So I contribute, my learning to the flat spin specifically to him. Or sometimes Alejandro gave me some really cool tips that I could use. So I think it's a really, really powerful thing to have.
For sure.
People can comment on it, so.
Yeah, with certain tricks, it's especially, it's always like, you could say like seeing someone learning tail whip is most of the people going to do the same mistake, right? So,
yeah. Jakub, I'll be honest, I'm out of questions. I think we covered a lot of ground here today. Is there anything you would want to share with the people listening? Like maybe you have a few words for the people who are just getting started bike riding. Maybe there are some people listening and they just want to compete at Crankworks and they are like young guns learning tricks. So do you have anything to share with the people listening?
So I would say if you have your goals, just keep going, and then it's hopefully going to come, Give it the time, give it the work, and mainly just have fun with it. I think that's what it is all about, Bikes are super fun. All the disciplines, it has so much to offer, and like I'm so happy that I found bikes, and kind of connected my life with it. So I love to see other people having the same passion, So.
Yeah, beautiful words, Jakub. I think that's a really great end. So for everybody listening, thank you so much for being with us. Jakub, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I hope like people can listen to this, and they maybe get some good insights as well,
I'm pretty sure about that. So again, thank you so much for being here. And guys, until the next time. Ciao. Thanks for listening till the end. We had a lot of fun recording this episode for you. I hope you also enjoyed today's episode and found it both informative and entertaining. If you did, please share it on your Instagram story or share it with your close friends so they can also benefit from listening. The way to motivate us to keep putting in the work recording these episodes for you is just by sharing it, rating the show, and leaving a positive review. In the description section, you can usually find the question and the poll, so don't forget to answer that as well. There you can also let us know what questions you would like me to ask from the upcoming guests. Lastly, I would like to announce that we are building a free community on Facebook for bike riders just like yourself, where the main goal is to help each other learn and perfect new tricks and moves on the bike. I see way too many people just try tricks, never recording themselves, and they usually keep failing the same way all over and over again before they give up or get injured. I've been a bike rider for over 10 years now, and after talking to a lot of professionals, I've realized that this is one of the biggest and most important things pro riders do to progress their riding. They record themselves, analyze the clip, and either compare that to a perfectly executed clip or video, or ask for some suggestions from their friends. You see, in order to learn or perfect new tricks, we first have to learn how it feels when we pull the trick perfectly, and then we have to use that feeling to do the trick over and over again, building up our confidence. The hardest part is landing the trick first, because we usually don't know what techniques to try or modify in order to find the feeling we are looking for. Once we got the feeling, usually we land the trick within a few tries. You know, I'm trying my best to invite all the guests into the group, so don't hesitate. Feel free to join in. We are looking forward to welcoming you in the group. You can find the link in the description. So, thanks for listening. Keep sending it. Peace and love. Until next time.